Okay, so welcome to my presentation. Thank you so much for joining me. And I want to thank the organizers of Polyglot Gathering. Let us begin. Why the search for reality-based semantic universals? Oh, and I was supposed to tell you to if you have any questions that are not too lengthy, please go ahead and ask them. If they're longer type questions, we can save them for the end. So in our world today, we keep being reminded of the stark disparities in ways of thinking and even in what is deemed reality and truth of what goes on in our mind and what actually versus what actually happens out there in the material world. But most languages are built from arbitrary signs uh, that have, that have no intrinsic relationship between signifier and referent, between symbol and meaning, and between the word and exterior reality. So the question in my mind is, have we lost anything? Is there an advantage to that? I mean, that's the way languages have developed, but languages don't necessarily go by um, evolutionary principles. They just kind of develop. So pictographies of the past did originally depict real objects, and then some of them evolved to include ideograms and later logograms, but none of them have represented concepts at a fundamental or at a very fundamental and or universal level. So, for instance, you all, I'm sure, are familiar with the Egyptian hieroglyphs, the Chinese characters, and Mesopotamian cuneiforms. They do stand for objects, but they are at a relatively complex level of meaning. So the more complex concept is, the more concepts, the more symbols you will need to, everyone knows that Chinese has thousands of characters, and the others have at least hundreds. So then we are now experimenting. Well, my father, this is my father's concept that I am continuing to work on. Um, he experimented with an old/new, shall we call it an old/new alternative. What if language functioned less as an arbitrary medium and facilitated alignment between inner thought and outer reality, using iconic primitives rooted in fundamental universal concepts? What if language were built on ideographs that gave us an anchor in reality? So here is here are the categories or the elements of meaning, my father called them, but they can also be considered categories, semantic categories, because they have a certain flexibility or a certain fuzziness in some contexts in how they can be interpreted, but it could be considered an a priori philosophical engineered language. And I recently learned that it could also be called a passalally, a phonemic ideography, an ideography that can be spoken. And so this is a set of proposed universal semantic primes, which we'll talk about more, that are kind of akin to the atomic elements of the periodic table and sort of as an analog. And there are only 42, actually 32 plus the 10 numerals, or 11, I guess. And what's unique about aUI is that there is a one-to-one relationship between sound, symbol, and meaning. So, for instance, space is all around us. It's pronounced We open our mouth wide to pronounce to pronounce and time is lasts longer, is measured in elliptical orbits. Movement, spiral nebula formation, and matter is a brickstone which lasts longer. And so here we have a whole set that the vowels are here at the top. These are shorter vowels. These are held longer. I, U, O. And then we have semivowels here. These are here. This row is unvoiced fricatives. And these first three are voiced fricatives. And then we have unvoiced stops, glottal stops, and voice stops. And then these are the numerals that are, of course, are more bilabial, or n is alveolar. But so we see that from top to bottom, it goes from open to closed phonetically, and from left to right in general, it goes from front to back articulated. So let's see if you can remember some of these. I said movement, like a spiral nebula. Matter, the brickstone. Above, the dot above a line is articulated in the upper palate, the velum. Space, I mentioned. Life is similar to the Ankh in Egyptian hieroglyphs. Is life, comes from the, starts in basics, then comes back down. But of course, it's also a symbol of a leaf, the basic photosynthesis, synthesis as being the basis of life on Earth. And action, the most active thing in nature, the lightning bolt, stands for action, and it also is the verb ending. And then inside, a dot inside a circle, pronounced g, as we feel that it's more inside the body, g, inside. And t means towards. It's the tongue tip towards. It's an abbreviated arrow. And then we have u. U is negation, and negation opposes or negates anything that stands underneath it. So I'm sure you all are quick studies, and let's see if you can put together some short combinations. So we have ev, and please unmute yourselves and give me a guess for what your interpretation is. Let's see if is there anybody here? Yes. Just speak. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay, so I think it's made up obviously of two different symbols which carry like two different meanings. The first one represents movement, which is the short e, and the second one represents the action. So I would assume so that the semantic statement that is carried by this phrase would be the action of movement.
Yes, and just a simple one word.
Go.
One word.
Go, move.
Yeah.
Yes, to move.
Okay.
Just the verb for movement would be to move. Yes. Und Sie sind sicher aus Deutschland.
Ja, hat man so sehr gehört, ne?
And so now we can make this a causative, and please feel free, anybody, to participate. So to make move, this is to activate or to make move, then, as one word in English is not quite so obvious. The word we have to make move would be perhaps to drive, but in general is to make move. Then ag, can any this is a very simple preposition, and it's just made pronounceable by adding the space in front of it. So that just means in. And let's see, you should be able to guess then. Tag, being toward, in, is also a preposition. Anybody?
Into?
Yes, very good. And now we have og, so now we have life inside. And in this context, you can also interpret it as a container. So what is our life container, our most basic life container?
House.
Body?
Yes. And now here we are aligning the symbols. Kind of, it's a kind of tag, and a combination of tag and og. So we have toward body, or we could say just into the body. And because we're going to, these are parts of a more complex word that I'll have you look in just a second. And now here we have K, above matter, matter that always rises up. Anybody care to guess?
Maybe sky.
Yes, more basic.
Yeah. Up.
The material that is always rises to the top.
Oxygen, or
Yes.
like
Yes.
air.
Gas. Yes,
Okay.
very good. Yes. So we can make that into air by adding the quantity symbol, and that makes it a kind of a mass noun kind of idea. So keen with the quantity then would specify air. And of course, oxygen and those kinds of elements can be specified by their numeric number, atomic number. So now, K Togvev, please hazard a guess. You have K and Tog and Vev.
That'd be to breathe.
Yes, and specifically towards into the body.
Breathe in.
Inhale. Yes, yes, yes. And here I didn't have this on the other slide, but here we have the opposite inside. So tug here means, of course,
To exhale.
out. Yes, the whole word would be exhale, and tug by itself would be out or outside, but out actually, yeah, outward. So that ke tugvev, then ke togvev, ke tugvev, and then here are also different ways. Symbols are actually surprisingly versatile, and you can have different formulations for the same concept. Here, let's see if you, here again, in the same vein of thinking, okay, so life, air, action, then would be a more general word for what you mentioned at what someone mentioned at the beginning.
That would be breathing, right?
Yes, yes. That would be just plain breathe, okav. And then we can specify it this way too, tag okav and tug okav. So inhale and exhale. So it's a little bit different. You can be more exacting in the combinations, and very exacting, or you can make it a little bit shorter even. So, but the main thing is that in aUI words, the ending kind of shows what it actually is. So a dog house is a house, whereas a house dog is a dog. And so in the sense that a breathing is a type of movement, then we would perhaps prefer to have the ev at the end. But here it is a type of action that we do, a very basic action that we do with our life air, life gas. So there's an intrinsic relationship between sound, symbol, and meaning, and between word, meaning, and reality. And so what happens, what results is that what is homonymous is also somewhat synonymous. There's a, what if it looks similar, it also means similar and has a relationship in meaning. So here we have fu. This is the arrow pointing down, means this. So this human, anybody want to hazard a guess? This human, the one right here, this.
I or me?
Yes, I or me is correct. And then together, bu, together human, the one that I'm together with would be
We, us.
uh, not plural.
Okay, it's then I would guess it's you, because if it's not
Yes,
plural,
yes, 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 yes. Very good. And shu is a just existing human that is a gender neutral pronoun. And then bru, the human, here we have plus positive means good or positive. The one human with it, the one we have a good relationship with could be
That'd be friend.
very good. And then this is bru, a spiritual good togetherness, a good a relationship, a positive spiritual togetherness.
Like a
And this
spouse?
is more of, pardon?
Spouse?
Yeah, but it's not a human. So this is a spirit, it's an abstract concept. Yes,
Friendship?
it's more of an, pardon?
Partner?
No.
Friendship?
Well, it could be, we can make friendship by putting a quality, which is
Love?
the adjective. Pardon?
love, love.
Yeah, that's another good guess. It could, yeah, I mean it could be the word that my father has as a standard word would be peace translation. But as you see, there are aUI can be used individually for one's own expression, so that you can express yourself in idiosyncratic ways, or it's used using a standard vocabulary that I have a webinary with over 11,000 words that have designated meanings. And so in order to communicate, of course, we would need a standardized vocabulary. So that's, but there is that flexibility of also doing your own combinations. So here we see how fu, bu, shu, bru, bru. And so you see if it sounds, if it sounds similar, there is a relationship in meaning. I is not so different from you. We are all human. And u is related to spirit or mind. Human is hopefully fulfilled in the spirit or mind, however you believe. So, I mean, yeah. So now, let's see, let me see. Is that my next slide? Yes, I gotta. So, of course, there has been, this slide obviously has way too much on it, but I was just trying to show how much of a historical effort there has been in searching for philosophical language based on real characters, what they called real characters. And this is very well discussed in Umberto Eco's book. I don't know. Wait a minute. Can you even see that? Oh, it's kind of blurry. Anyway, In Search of the Perfect Language. And so there have been many since the 1500s, actually, or the 17th century mainly, where Descartes, Comenius even had this idea of each that a universal language should reflect the composition of reality. Delgado and Wilkins and Ludwig all worked together for a while. And so there has been this search for a universal character, and especially Gottfried Leibniz had a pictographic, the idea at least, of an alphabet of human thought that provides a universal way by breaking down their component pieces. All ideas are compounded from a very small number of simple ideas, which can be represented by a unique character. So, and then there are lots of many further efforts at pasigraphies, logographic, ideographic, and visual languages that did to some extent try to search for or to identify basic concepts, but it's not always very clear how much they were actually looking for the most basic concepts, which is what aUI is trying to do. And here, NSM, the natural semantic meta language, study that Anna Wierzbicka has done her whole life's work of research looking for the basic primes that are universal to all languages, that are lexically represented in all languages. So I'll talk just a little bit more in a second here, but to say more exactly what we are talking about by universal semantic primes. Primes are conceptually irreducible. The universality comes in that because we are theorizing that these fundamental concepts are that we all have in common as part of the human experience, that also form the foundation of human thought and communication, and that in aUI can combine to form molecules of meaning. So here, this NSM, natural semantic meta language, is what I found to be the most closest related in concept to aUI, even though it's not actually a spoken language. But it is has been a long-term cross-cultural research in Australia, and they have identified 65 primes, and 29 of these are closely related to or even correspond directly to aUI primes. And if we exclude the numerals, then 80% of the main aUI primes also correspond to NSM. So that's some kind of verification. And these are just to give you an idea, we don't have to go to in any detail here, but these are the NSM, the 65. Each one of these is one of their primes. And these in aUI would be their equivalents. So thing is the symbol for thing, or the sound for thing. So here I have interpreted that as human, so that corresponds to the aUI human category and part. I couldn't fit the symbols in here, so these are just the Romanized letters. But you get the idea that everything in green is very closely related. Think here, it is U is mind. Feel, I have the O for feeling. And C is E, light, and sound for hear. So I took some of the even more basic concepts from their primes. Yeah. So then what is the motivation for aUI? For my father's original idea was a peace through understanding. And his he grew up under the time of Hitler. Of course, he was from Vienna. And was most concerned about the alliterative the effects of slogans, and particularly alliterative slogans during the Nazi regime. And this is called in general parakesis. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Parakesis, is that correct? Which just means a close succession of similar sounds. So alliteration is a type of parakesis. And in propaganda, ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer, as if the Volk folgt dem Führer, as if the folk or the nation follows and obeys. Pardon? Was there a comment? Okay. So folgen in German also means to obey. So it has it has that implicit meaning. Heil Hitler, of course, has also the similar sounds in it. And you've got these all too much now currently. This is becoming close to home. So stop the steal. It's I don't know. We're going backwards, it seems. So then there is also a body of research from the 1950s and 60s that was originally Russian research on semantic conditioning. And my father's conclusion about that is that we have that the human has a tendency to we think, we associate in assonance. The subconscious mind associates in assonance, but consciously we think in synonyms. So that when the mind is compromised in some way, for instance, in mob situations, in crowd situations, or in situations where there's not enough conscious reflection about what is true and what is not true, if there is not enough conscious reflection and critical thinking, then we become more susceptible to similar sounds in slogans. And this was actually, I found very recently, the rhyme as reason effect, in which they found that phrases that sounded similar or that rhymed were taken to be interpreted as more truthful and more believable than phrases. The same phrase, with the same meaning, but without rhyming, without rhyme. So, and there are various reasons for that, that I won't go into right now. But so here, okay. So yeah, since we need to move on to the end here, I put up another kind of a sequence of aUI combinations to see if you can guess them. EO, light, life. If you'd like to, anybody,
Would that be photosynthesis?
it would be close. It would be even more simple. But a type of life that
Sun,
depends on light.
sun,
Yeah,
sun, maybe. Oh,
yeah. I should have let you guess more. EO is here feeling can be understood as sense, although there's also a
Sight?
separate word for sense.
Sight or vision? Sight or vision?
Yes. And then of course EOs, the part that we use for sight,
The eyes, yeah.
Eyes.
and iod. And now here, this is a symbol means through, a line through a line means through, but it also can be interpreted as a means or as a tool. So we work through a tool, we work by means of a tool. So a very simple tool for seeing.
Glasses, a lens.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yes, and iov, the verb for sight.
To see.
Yes.
Okay.
And then tiov, if we put in to, towards, if you have a directionality towards to your seeing.
That's to look.
Yes. Oops, I didn't do that. Yes. And then if we look for a time over a period of time.
to wait, to wait.
Oh, sorry. I clicked it too
Yeah.
soon.
I failed to
wait.
activate my mic properly, so yeah.
Yeah. Good. Very good.
So
Yes.
the fourth one there, the one in the middle that you've translated
You-
glasses, would that include also things like binoculars and telescopes,
Well,
cameras?
we would no. We would certainly add more. So a telescope would be überiod, so far space. The opposite of together is far, über, and so a far seeing tool. And you can specialize these. You can yeah, make them more specific to the. Of course, the more complicated something is, then the word is going to tend to get a little longer.
I'm just having a little trouble figuring out what the difference is between glasses and eye.
Use is the part. This is a symbol for part. I should have said that. Like a cheese cut in part. Use, and then iod is the symbol for through or means. Is that clear? Yeah. So there's a lot of specificity. It's surprising how much specificity one can do in with such few symbols. So, oh, hold it. Here is also another, these are some symbols that if you can guess two of these are homonyms in English. In English, they are homonyms. So we have takim. So now we have towards, space, above, matter, the quality of matter to have a tendency to rise. And but this is an adjective because it ends in quality. And then here we have im, light quality is the quality. So let's see if you you can tell me what the quality for the adjective for light I mean, light can be, it can be just said to be light as an adjective. Yeah. Or bright, but then bright, you can also add a quantity symbol to make that
Sorry,
much.
I have a question. I didn't really
Yeah.
get what the meaning, like what the meaning of the first phrase word was. Like takim,
Right.
what does it mean?
Takim. Yeah. Well, in this is so I think wait a minute. I thought I would let that go until I got
Okay, okay, okay.
yeah,
So it is yet to become like
yes. We're go well
we'll
we'll
find
get
out.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's okay. And then yim, we have of course the opposite, so that would be the opposite of light.
Dark?
Dark, and then here we have this tukim. So I don't know if you can see what I'm getting at, where the which has the homonym. So light here in aUI, of course, will have the light symbol on because it actually means light, because it refers to a light source. This is oh, and I guess I didn't even say this is a source of light and the rays spreading out, like a shortened sun or something. And takem is so that could also be that was translated also as light. It's light is it's the quality of matter to not to be dragged down. So tukim, the quality of matter to go down would be heavy, and takim then is light. So because it has a tendency to go to not to be taken down, so or to be weighed down, I should say. So in aUI, the symbols, the homonyms, of course, are going to yeah, if they're homonyms, they would also have a relationship in meaning. And so you couldn't have a discrepancy between, you couldn't have homonyms in the sense that in most languages that we have. So here, I wanted to end on my father's translation of Goethe's Faust. I mean, not Faust, an excerpt. Mit Worten lässt sich trefflich streiten, mit Worten ein System bereiten, an Worte lässt sich trefflich glauben, von einem Wort kein Iota rauben. With words, with words we soon can start a fight. With oops, sorry, I just have to move this because I can't quite read it. Start a fight. In words, a system seems so right. In words, it's easy to believe. With words, it's easy to deceive. And so I'd like to just read that in aUI. Ui fnu ja pun werv pev rui ui tub oev neem trum ui seish udrem e jurov ui seish udrem tie jurov. So that is what I have. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask them.
So I have a question which refers to the phonetical system. Like I assume, or the impression I got so far is that we're talking about a constructed theoretical language which is designed to represent fundamentality and universality of the human thought and mind. So I wonder where the phonemes that corresponds to the to the symbols, let's call it that, where they come from. Like, for example, I noticed as a German native speaker, maybe it's not even necessary. Maybe even persons who aren't German native speakers may notice that the R, for example, was a uvular R, like not a not a trilled R, and I just wonder why pick that? Because most languages, of course, use a trilled R. So where does this come from? Like for a universal language, to pick a uvular R that is much less common than just a trilled R. So, for example.
Yeah, and trilled R. How do I get back? Oh, there we are. Okay. Um, trilled R, is that a r? Is that what you
No,
consider?
no, like by my terminology, or like by what I say, with a trilled R, I mean like ra, and with a uvular R, I mean ra.
Yeah. Well, in aUI, we can't make such fine distinctions because I mean Americans would probably more likely say r, have a
Yeah,
r,
right,
r
right.
sound. So it's not that strict. And my father's kind of Eselsbrücke, whatever you call that, mnemonic is that it's kind of the sound of a cat purring, and so we kind of prefer to use a uvular R. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But those distinctions would be, I mean, that there would be some differences depending on what
Yeah.
your native language is.
Like the thing is, like, I know it may sound like it's overcomplicated and things, but actually we have so what do we have here? We have several symbols we can see, and next to them we have correspondings in orthography, like because there are letters standing besides every
Yes,
symbol, but one has to keep in mind maybe that depending on the language, letters can represent different sounds, and like I know like what you said makes sense to me if we're talking about an R being um, a letter which has different sounding variants, but in fact um, an R is another phoneme than an R, than
right.
an R. Like all of those are different phonemes in linguistics.
Yeah,
So I just wondered, why pick this phoneme? Because actually it doesn't matter. Like R as the letter that stands beside this plus, for example, is just a letter. But the sounds that R can represent in
right.
maybe different regions, like it's actually not that. You know what I mean? It's actually not that over complicating, or I try not to do this, but it's rather that there are really different sounds
There
involved.
are,
Like,
yes, yeah. Well, on my on and on our website, the phonetic IPA symbols are put in, and we have two variants there for R. And I this is yeah, there is sort of a, like, for instance, for l, round, the tongue is sort of rounded when you say l. It's sort of curved. So there is some intrinsic, at least a motivated relationship between the sound, the reason why that sound was picked. E is the brightest vowel and has the highest frequency. E, light. It's also a frontal vowel and a high vowel, a high placed vowel. So E is we think of light, the sun above us, and visible in front of us. E, and whereas spirit is, mind is more hidden in back. And O is even deeper. So it's more of a back tongue vowel. We feel deeply, we say oh, and ooh is mysterious, also held in the back, or we hold our feelings back maybe. So, there is some kind of an intuitive sense about most of the symbols. Huh is a question. We breathe a question. Huh. And zh is an equal sounding zh. It's the symbol that's used for water. Equal matter is liquid or water because it always stands equal, even if it's not disturbed. So, and these down here are considered topo vectors. They are the glottal stops show position, p to k and b to g. So yeah, that's there has to be some leeway in the sounds because I mean universal, and I hesitate to say universal because we cannot fully prove that they are indeed universal. So but Anna Welczbicka and her associates have been studying their whole lives in trying to determine what the universal concepts are. So and maybe it is possible with AI to figure out if all these concepts are represented in all languages. So
here, I mean,
Oh.
maybe I can add another thing as well, because so it's just meant as a little comment, not really as a question. One of the things that defines human language in contrast to, for example, animal communication systems is something like, I think in English you would call it somewhat like compositionality. So the ability to kind of build and construct
Yes.
abstract themes by combining different meanings. Like, for example, when like in other systems of communication, for example, among animals, you have sounds that have or that can have a meaning and a referent. But well, as I already said, in human languages, there's this defining, unifying concept that makes it really unique, which is this compositionality, like to compose or to be able to compose meanings. Like, for example, in German, Rücken, Bergrücken, like Rücken means back. And so it's in all languages, but this concept, this whole ability to have a word which means something, and you can transfer this concept to a whole nother thing, and it still makes sense. You can combine semantically.
Compositionality. Yeah. Well, that's what aUI is built on. That these symbols are combined. Yeah. And then I had a question here: has aUI been used for anyone to communicate? Actually, there is someone who had met my father is doing research on teaching it to dolphins. I don't know how that's even more ambitious than we are, but I guess in my and I hope that at some point I will be very fluent. I have spent so much time working on the dictionary, and oh yeah, we should have put the link to that. It's auiwebinary.com. And but mainly, realistically, my idea is that one does research with this language, and psycholinguistically, for perhaps in brain mapping, and whether there is indeed a possible advantage to having a congruency between sound, symbol, and meaning. If the phonological mapping and the semantic mapping are more closely related, whether that is a processing advantage at all. So yeah, I'm looking for a graduate student. So yeah, thank you very much. Oh yeah, I don't know if they're going to cut me off or if there are any more questions.
Yeah, I have
Yeah, we have
a question if I can. How similar is this language to Logespan?
I don't think it's very similar. I don't, I haven't studied it in detail, but Logespan doesn't have symbols, and it's very, very intricate in trying to assess and analyze our thinking, but it's not really based on real reality or real concepts that are related to reality. So yeah, thank you so much for your attention and interest. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.